The history of Canada explained in 10 minutes. Excited to get into this and learn a little bit more about Canada's history. Before we do, appreciate if you guys can hit that subscribe button. Let's check out Canada. So big, bro.
Canada, known for their delicious maple syrup, and being home to nearly all of the greatest hockey players of all time, is the second largest nation on Earth, and with approximately 2 million lakes.
Look how beautiful that top left is. Top right, is that just like broken? Are they clouds or is that snow? Oh, bottom's really nice as well.
Contains over 50% of the freshwater lakes on the planet. For many thousands of years, this region was populated with many indigenous tribes of hardy people, capable of overcoming the severe and lengthy winters, thriving and developing unique cultures. The first non-native people to settle in Canada, and the New World in general that we know of for sure, were the Vikings. They built a settlement in Newfoundland around 1000 AD. It is unclear for exactly how long this settlement was occupied for, or if there was more.
Well, surely they all didn't live in that place there. Vikings probably did.
But ultimately, it was either abandoned, pillaged, or its inhabitants succumbed to disease, or assimilated into the local population. But theories abound. Nearly 500 years later, in 1497, the Italian explorer, Giovanni Capoto, was the first European to explore North America's coast, claiming it for the English crown. Shortly after, the Spanish and the Portuguese would do the same, but remained uncolonized for several decades, with only a few seasonal Portuguese and Basque fishing outposts built.
Yo, I know that, England had something to do with Canada's history, but like, don't a lot of Canada still speak French? I know that the French went there as well, obviously, right? But I don't really know too much, I don't know how much of Canada speak French. Don't know if it's just a certain part, but it's interesting.
Until the French arrived. Jacques Cartier claiming the land for France in
Here they are. Here comes the en français.
1534. He named the Gulf and river after St. Lawrence's feast day on which he arrived. The French called the territory around the river Canada, after the native word for settlement. After several failed attempts at permanent settlement succumbed to starvation and disease, the cities of Quebec and Port Royal were successfully established.
Wait, yeah, isn't it Quebec where they do speak a lot of French? I could be wrong though.
By 1670, the English colonies in the south had expanded, and new settlements were established in Newfoundland and south of the Hudson Bay. The fur trade, particularly in beaver pelts, became extremely lucrative, as it became the favored material for hat makers and luxury winter clothing in northern Europe. This greatly encouraged further northern settlement by both English and French fur trappers seeking to make a fortune. The French and the English did not peacefully coexist, with the French temporarily taking much of the territory around the Hudson Bay during the lengthy period known as the Beaver Wars. Not only the Europeans became wealthy and influential from the trade in beaver pelts. The Iroquois Confederation of 6 power...
Mate, that's crazy when you think about it, right? Like, the French and the English are literally having a long war. Like, how long is this war? 70 years, mate, and the beavers just there watching like, hey, we don't want no part of this. Can you just leave us alone?
Tribes, armed with European firearms, initially allied with Dutch merchants, and then the English, to aggressively attack the French, and most other Indian tribes in the region to obtain more furs. Many of these tribes banded together with the French to halt Iroquois expansion. Peace was negotiated after 72 years of fighting, and many, mostly Indian lives lost. And little territorial change. The region of New France was comprised of several colonies.
Bro, 72 years of fighting is crazy, bro. Literally started when people was kids and ended when they was gone. That's 72 years is crazy.
Canada and Louisiana were the largest, along with the smaller Plaisance and Acadia, which the British Empire obtained from the French in the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713 in a complicated agreement concerning the War of Spanish Succession. France also recognized the legitimacy of the Hudson Bay Company's claim over Rupert's Land. Interestingly, the Hudson Bay Company is still in existence today. Primarily as owners of a retail store chain, bearing their name. Despite their larger territory, the French increasingly became outnumbered by the rapidly growing British colonies surrounding them, by a margin of 10-1 by the time the next major conflict between the two occurred. During the 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War, as it has become known in much of North America, French-speaking Acadians were deported far from the Canadian borderlands, some of whom formed the basis of much of the Cajun population of modern-day Louisiana and New Orleans. Both English and French empires sent thousands of regular infantry to North America during the war, supported by local militias and Indian tribes. The greatly outnumbered French relied heavily on Indian allies and fought the British to a standstill early in the war, until the British successfully besieged the cities of Quebec and Montreal. Despite the French later defeating the British in a pitched battle, they failed to retake their capital city. In the treaty that ended the war soon after, France ceded Canada to Britain, while giving Louisiana territory to her ally, Spain. It is important to note at this...
Wait, that's interesting though, because like, I know French still has a massive impact over like Quebec and that, so did they then take it back a little bit later?
Time, much of North America's non-coastal areas were still largely unpopulated, with many of the native tribes heavily depleted through warfare and invasive diseases from which they had little immunity. With a population of approximately 3 million, the American colonies waged a successful rebellion against the British Crown. A little over a decade later, the Americans attempted and failed to take Quebec.
Wait, that's so interesting. So this whole area of America back then was called Spanish Louisiana? Oh, wow.
Which remained loyal to Great Britain. After the war, many British loyalists moved north into Canada. During the following War of 1812, both British and American armies launched several failed invasions of each other's territory, ending in military stalemate, and the status quo was maintained. The treaties following the war...
Hold up. Do you guys see something a bit wrong with the history of Canada? Hey, who decided this then? Why is this called Upper Canada and this is called Lower Canada? But Lower Canada is higher than Upper Canada, and Upper Canada is lower than Lower Canada. What is going on? Hey, we're still one upside down. What's going on?
Established a more formalized border between the two nations. Despite the Canadians' desire not to join their American neighbors to the south, movements for self-rule increasingly grew among the Canadian lower and middle classes, culminating in the rebellions of 1837 and 38 that were severely dealt with and crushed, and saw the short-lived Republic of Canada established by William Lloyd Mackenzie. Despite the Republic's short-lived lifespan and diminutive size, widespread public support, not only from many Canadians, both French and English-speaking, but also from Americans to the south, spurred Great Britain's government to make major concessions in the rebellion's aftermath. The Act of Union in 1840 united Upper and Lower Canada into the new province of Canada, and the granting of responsible government soon after allowed for a far greater degree of self-rule to be exercised by the elected representatives of the people. In 1846, the disputed Oregon Territory was peaceably divided between Great Britain and the United States, pretty much by drawing a straight line and giving Vancouver Island to Canada. Throughout the 19th century, a massive boom in the logging industry fueled large waves of immigration to Canada, gradually replacing the fur trade as Canada's most lucrative industry. In 1867, the British North America Act, or more commonly called the Constitution Act today, established Canada as a self-governing democracy with Ottawa as its capital city. To the west, the Hudson's Bay Company negotiated the sale of Rupert's Land to the newly formed Canadian government. The Métis people...
Wait, how much did they get for that though? How much did they sell for that? Because that's a lot of land right there.
...government. The Métis people of mixed European, primarily French, and Indian ancestry were the largest population of the Winnipeg area of what is now Manitoba. Fearing the land they had held for generations would be seized by newcomers from the east, they rose in rebellion, creating a provisional government. And after a tense standoff, an eventual occupation by federal troops, many of their demands were met, respecting their rights. The leader of the rebellion,
here we go,
would lead another larger but less successful rebellion.
Now Canada's the whole of this.
15 years later, that ended with his trial and execution. Louis Riel became a martyr, or villain to many Canadians.
Oh, really?
His death increasing the tensions between Indian Métis, English, and French groups in society. Because of the key role the partially completed Transcontinental Railway played in the suppression of the rebellion, political support for completing it soared among English-speaking Canadians, and the railroad was completed in only 4 years from when it had begun. The 1890s saw the Klondike Gold Rush.
Wait. Actually, that's actually crazy, bro. Bro, that's actually crazy. Back then, they completed this whole entire railroad in 4 years. This is a long distance, bro. That's actually very, very impressive. Oh my God. In fact, I think if we did this today in modern times, we like to delay everything, especially the UK. Hey, that would take more than 4 years, buddy.
The 1890s.
I swear, wait, no, way more. I'm pretty sure one of our main highways in the UK has been having work on it for like 10 years, mate. Only a small part. There's always roadworks, bro. It's never done.
Saw the Klondike Gold Rush, in which over 100,000 prospectors
tiny.
set out to the remote Yukon region in hopes of striking it rich. Some did, but most didn't.
Okay.
After several decades of stagnant population growth, largely due to emigration to the United States, Canada's population sharply increased due to a good economy and high foreign immigration throughout the early 20th century.
You know what? What even is Canada's population? I actually don't know. Like, I remember seeing it somewhere, and I remember thinking, wow, it's so big for, like, the amount of people there is too big. Like, there's little people for how much, you know, space Canada has. I'm pretty sure the number was below the UK, and the UK is 70 million. So I'm going to guess like 50 mil or something maybe. But yeah, how many people actually live in Canada?
During the First World
massive.
War, Canada, still a dominion of the United Kingdom, sent 620,000 troops to fight in Europe. 67,000 would die,
What?
while another
Wait. Canada sent over 670,000 troops?
Canada, still a dominion of the United Kingdom, sent 620,000 troops
620
to fight in Europe.
Wow.
67,000 would die, while another 173,000 would be wounded. The
What?
staggering casualty rate grieved and shocked the nation. The war had a strong impact on Canadian nationalism and the desire
Wow.
to self-govern its own international affairs, which they obtained when the British Parliament passed the Statute of Westminster in 1931, which acknowledged Canada's co-equal status with the United Kingdom. Between the World
Wow.
Wars, Canada was hit particularly hard during the Great Depression of the early 1930s, with unemployment rates reaching 25%, and many men living in unemployment relief camps. During the Second World War, over 1.1 million Canadians served in that brutal conflict.
Oh my God. Yo, massive respect to Canada. I actually feel very, very bad for the fact that I did not know this. Like, obviously, I know the UK was heavily involved, massively, right? But I didn't know Canada sent so many troops during the wars. Wow. I wonder why our history lessons leave that out. Or, then again, during school, I didn't really pay too much attention. But yeah, no, that's the first time I heard of that. Wow, crazy. 600,000 the first time, 1.2 million the next time.
In the Second World War,
Wow.
over 1.1 million Canadians served in that brutal conflict that left nearly 100,000 of them dead or wounded.
Wow.
In 1949, Newfoundland became the last Canadian province to incorporate. In 1965, Canada adopted its current flag. Here's a selection of some of the other national
Cool
flags that
flag.
were proposed. Let me know in the comments.
Wait. These was the potential flags? Oh, Canada, you picked the right flag. This, okay, yeah, to be fair, there's a lot of countries out there with the Union Jack on their flag. But I prefer it without. I don't know what this symbol is right here. What is this right here? Yeah, but this one looks okay. Not really. That reminds me of Poland a lot. I don't know why. Yeah, you guys, I like the flag. The flag is cool.
Of which one do you think looks best? In 1982, the Canada Act passed the Parliament of the United Kingdom and was ratified by the Queen,
Right.
granting Canada the right to create their own constitution, which they promptly did.
Cool.
Still recognizing the constitutional monarchy in a mostly ceremonial rule, the new constitution abolished the British Parliament's remnants of influence over Canada. Canada is now a nation of over 36 million people.
Oh, what, 36 million? 36 million? That's half of the UK. 36. Look how big you are. Oh, you guys need to start reproducing. Mate, the UK is probably the same size as Quebec here. Probably smaller. Maybe smaller, yeah. That's crazy.
where over 20% speak French as a first language.
Wow, 20%.
And has the 10th largest economy in the world. The province of Quebec has maintained a strong French influence over the centuries, and has on 2 occasions voted in referendums to decide whether Quebec should proclaim national sovereignty and become an independent country.
Oh, really?
In 1995, it very nearly did not pass, with secession still being an issue till this day.
Oh
This has
my
been
God, that's
Epimetheus.
close.
Let me know what you think down in the comments. What Canadian province is your
Yo, interesting, but I'm really in... Wait, what is...
favorite to visit or live in? Don't
what's
you
that?
think down in the comments. What Canadian province is your favorite to visit or live in? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and
Wait, that'd be interesting though. If you guys from Canada, like, yeah, what is your favorite place to live in if you moved all over to Canada? This is my second video ever on Canada, and I'm enjoying learning about it. Very, very, very interesting though. If you guys want to tell me any useful information about Canada, if you're from there, let me know in the comment section. The only pretty much thing I knew about Canada really before checking out these videos was I got a friend from Canada, and every time I joined his call or whatever, or spoke to him and his friends also from Canada, they just seem like the most chillest people on the planet. My literally one opinion before getting into this is Canadians are just super chill. Now, I could be wrong. You guys can let me know in the comments. But yeah, very interesting video. Enjoyed that. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Subscribe for more content. Live every single day on Twitch.tv/L3WG. If you guys want to check me out over there, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.